The knife, or knives, probably one of the most commonly carried and used tools I can think of. So let's talk about knives. I saw a funny video recently of a man making an argument that you should be carrying a fixed blade knife versus a folding knife. I thought it was a little funny because, first of all, not everybody enjoys the luxury of living in the woods like I do. And second of all, even if you do live in the woods, most of the time you have to travel into the city or somewhere civilized for work, where carrying a fixed blade knife is not an option. So it's an option for me when I'm home on the homestead, and we are experimenting around with this cold steel Razor Tech, which I picked up recently, which is a really nice looking knife. We'll see if it performs. But a lot of us don't have that option. We have to carry folding knives. I figured it'd be fun to put together a video to talk about folding knives. Let's look at some options that maybe will help you make some decisions for you if you're in the market. Because I've made a lot of mistakes with knives. I've bought a lot of different types of knives, and I've had a lot of different types of uses for knives. And my use might be different from your use. For example, many times I'm carrying a machete, particularly this cold steel katana machete, because I use it for property maintenance and in some cases practice, right? But again, not everybody has that option. So let's look at some common EDC folding knives. I do this video today because it's kind of a special occasion. We've had a couple of major changes in my life, some sea change if you will. So when that happens, I like to change up my kit a little just to feel like I'm starting afresh and anew. I've been carrying this Spyderco Endura with a worn clip blade for almost 2 years now. And I love this knife, and there's some very particular reasons why I carry this knife. I don't know if you could hear the grit and sand in there. It does need a little bit of cleanup, but we are putting this knife away. We're gonna give it a clean up. I do train in martial arts with this Endura trainer, so it's gonna be a little strange to start carrying something that I don't train with every day, but that's okay. My new EDC knife is underneath this box. We're gonna leave that a mystery till the end, although you already know it's a Spyderco. And all these knives have been carried or used to some degree over the last 10 years, from starting with these super, let's just say low cost tack force kind of knives that you can get very low cost, to knives that cost, you know, a couple of $100s. We run the whole gamut. So I figured we'd just take a look at a few of these. Now, if you are looking for a low-cost budget knife, these Paraforce knives, I did carry this one in particular, the Speedster model. This is the TF498. They all have their own designation. This is like the rescue model or something. It does have that little supposed glass breaker and belt cutter on there. I've never really used those, but I did use this knife for a number of years, and it actually held up rather well. It's got a little bit of a wobble in it right now. But I haven't really worked on it too much or attempted to do anything. And it's just kind of some low-cost knives. This one was given to me by a family friend, actually somebody that lived back in Illinois, and they gave this to me as a gift. And so this one's just kind of cool, pretty, from just a ornamental standpoint. But I choose to carry somewhat, you know, higher-end knives, mid-range knives, if you will. And we did eventually upgrade from the Tackforce knives to Benchmade, and then I got this Griptilian, and these are pretty utilitarian in my opinion. It's got a very thick blade on it. I actually pried with this quite a bit, and there's really no play in the blade at all. I mucked up trying to sharpen it. I learned to sharpen a knife with this knife pretty much, and still have a long ways to go as far as learning to sharpen knives, but the Griptilian I found was a really good knife. Now, the thing is, when you're choosing a knife, you have to think about your use, right? What are you going to use it for on a day-to-day basis? Most people, it's just going to be opening their boxes from Amazon, right? That's what most people are doing. Maybe some people are using it for work purposes. You know, me, I use it in the lab a lot. I used to use it as a mechanic. I use knives all the time around the homestead. And unlike a lot of people, I actually train to knife fight, which alters my choice for an everyday carry knife. And this is why I'm saying, I'm giving you some options that maybe you can make the best choice for you, which might not be the best choice for me. But moving on from the Benchmade Griptilian, we eventually picked up a 940 Osborne, and I carried this one for quite a lot of time, actually. I want to say going on a couple of years. And I've also mucked up this one, sharpening it a little bit. This is when I first got a work sharp. I learned to sharpen on that, and I did kind of nick the tip on it a little bit, if you will. But these 940s are pretty nice. Some people can't really get with the overall blade shape and, you know, the handle shape, which is a little strange, but I find it to work quite nice. It does have kind of a unique blade shape on it that was designed for a specific purpose. At some point when they came out with the bug out, I did get one of these and carried it for a while, but though I think is a very, very nice knife, I just didn't prefer to carry it for whatever reason. It's a very nice knife. It's quite robust. It doesn't feel like it, but it is. And then we tried some Spydercos. We tried the Paramilitary 3 for a while. I didn't end up preferring it. Some people love the Paramilitary 2. That is quite the ubiquitous knife. They're great knives. I just didn't prefer it for whatever reason. Did end up liking the Wharncliffe Endura quite a bit. Again, I have a trainer for this, right? So another thing too, for the style of knife fighting that I train in, the Wharncliffe is preferable. And it's also, this is the first knife I've ever, let's just say, dispatched an animal with. I can say this knife is pretty good for that, especially for chickens. So we have a limited edition. I think this is called a Persistence in Blue. This is a foreign nation made knife though, as you know, this one's made in Taiwan, but there is a quality difference between these two. And of course you have the American made ones too. Now this one, the Model 1 from Ontario, this is my beater knife. This is my beater folder knife. I actually have a little band that I run around the property I jog with, and when I jog, I carry this knife a lot. If I need to do a quick job on a knife that I don't care about destroying, I use this knife and I can't really destroy it. This is a great knife. It's a rather large knife. I mean, you can just compare, I mean, I guess it's comparable to the Griptilian, but something compared to, like, you know, that, it's pretty, I mean, it's almost like a 4-inch blade on that. So we figured I'd throw the Ontario on there because this is my beater knife, and it's a nice knife. This is a Cobra-Tech, so a lot of people might be familiar with Microtech knives, the out front automatic knives. This is kind of a knockoff of Microtech. Overall, it's held up through the years. I think I bought this in maybe 2017. It did eventually have a screw come loose and go missing. But overall, I don't like the automatic knives. I think they get filthy in there, and they're easy to take apart and maintain. But I just like one that's more of a flipper or a folder more than out the front. And then we have all of the Swiss Army knives that I've carried, and this is not all of them. This is my most carried Swiss Army knife. This is the Victorinox Explorer. I carry this one because it being a, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 layer knife, it's not too thick to be off-putting carrying in the pocket. It's got everything on it that you could possibly need, to include a magnifying glass. And not only have I used this to start a fire, but I had a coworker use it to light a cigarette. And when he came back in, he was like, I was surprised at how easy that worked. And I was like, I know. Florida sun helps. Ranger Grip 76. This is a great option if you want a locking, larger Victorinox or Swiss Army style knife. It does lock into place, and it does have the one-hand assisted opening, kind of similar to, you know, the Spidey hole, if you will. I carried this one on my belt for a number of years. This is the Swiss Champ, and this is a really cool Swiss Army knife. It's a little over the top as far as it being a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layer. 7 or 8, whatever. But if you want to carry this on the belt, but a little cumbersome for in the pocket. This is a knockoff of a Camillus knife, an old like issue military. I carried this camping back in Illinois. Every time I went camping, I carried this basic toolkit, can opener, cap lifter, knife, and all. Great for camping. Spartan, pretty basic Victorinox. It wouldn't be a knife video if I didn't have some case knives. So here is a pretty neat little limited edition case knife. Kind of a, what is that, like a pearl scales on it. And the cool thing about this, kind of a matching set type of a thing here if I wanted to do minimalist classy carry. Isn't that nice? And then here we have a classic sod buster. So these are pretty cool. I like these. And I like to carry this sometimes as just a backup knife. I usually don't carry the case knives as main knives, but kind of an old-timey knife that a lot of people might like would be the old-timer for an old-timey knife. This is the Brown Bear. And this would be a good example of what I would call like a grandpa knife. This is a USA, back when they still made them USA quality. It has a big, robust sheath for it, leather belt sheath. And I've had this for a long time. And this might be a great option for some of you guys that are looking for more of a classic carry. It has the liner lock, and there you go. Another classic made in the USA old timer. This one's seen better days. It could actually use a little bit of work. It's not quite locking up, but you know, they're getting harder to find, the old USA made ones. And here's an example of a non-USA made one. And then, just to kind of finish it off, I wanted to talk about the Opinels. These are kind of neat. You can get them in basically two styles in different sizes. The number 8 Opinel, which you see here, is probably the most ubiquitous. They're very low cost, very sharp. You can lock them by rotating this little barrel here. Come in two styles, as I stated earlier. Here's one in inox. This one's really nice because it's got these little deer carvings in it. So stainless, or inox as they call it over in Europe, and carbon, which they call carbone. So those are nice Opinels. I mean, they're just classy, taking on a picnic type knives, but they'll do some pretty hard use, I found through the years. I haven't really used the inox one, which probably would be more appropriate for Florida. I've used the carbon one quite a lot. This has actually been cleaned up with a knife eraser. Had some grease affixed to it to keep it from corroding, because they corrode fast. And here's kind of an interesting competitor. This is MAM. These are Portuguese knives. I have a few of these that are a lot like the Opinels, but this one really is not. This one locks into place, which you don't see a lot in these wood-handled knives. You see that? MAM since 1870. And this supposedly has a titanium, probably coated blade. It's kind of neat that it locks into place. See that there? Of course, the European style lock where you put it to the right to release it. See that? All right, finally, what knife do I carry every day? And what have I changed up from? From the Spyderco Endura with the Wharncliffe blade. That would be the Spyderco Canis. Isn't that a gnarly knife? Pay a couple $100 for one of these knives. It's got the micarta scales, a little swedge cut out there for structural integrity, and of course the very purposefully utilized Wharncliffe blade. And again, I sometimes carry two knives. I do train in knife fighting, so there's that. Not saying I ever want to use this in a fight. God forbid that would ever have to happen. It's just something that I chose as a form of kind of general preparedness and, quite frankly, exercise. It's great exercise. And the Spyderco Canis. I really do love this knife. It's CPM S30V steel, a little bit of an upgrade from what I was carrying. It's working out the way it is now, but we just started carrying this, and this is the Spyderco Canis. And again, what's good for me might not be good for you, but you do you. Those of you, very few, that do make it to the end of videos, thank you. If you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.